Social media has made it very easy for people to add nonprofit consultant and fundraiser to their titles, and they've never done the work before. And I don't mean they've not done the work at all. I mean, as a consultant, but sometimes people have become consultants because they've done it for organizations. That counts, right? Because that's experience. But we have too many people that believe they can do it. But I've heard some very scary things on social media, jumping on some of these audio platforms, watching some webinars. I've heard some very scary things that I know immediately that person has no clue what they're doing when it comes to fundraising. So here are some things that I would recommend that you do. Number one, think about when you're developing your scope of work and you have a particular amount of money that you need to raise over a particular for a year. So say you're looking to raise $250,000 in a year, you should be asking your consultant if they've raised at least $250,000 or more in a particular year. And you should also be asking them, did they do it alone or with a team? Because that's going to make a difference. Someone who has done the work by themselves versus someone who has done it as a team, that means they've had additional resources. So if they're coming to the table by themselves, you need to be sure that they can do it by themselves. It doesn't mean if they've not worked individually before that they can't do it. It doesn't mean that. What it means is you now have additional information to consider before you decide on moving forward with a consultant or not. So ask the questions, ask for references, ask for direct references of organizations where they have actually done the work, and ask for a reference on a leadership level. So not someone who was in the ranks of the organization. You want someone that can call, that will understand, not they were a nice person. They were a nice person, but you know what? They really didn't get to the point we needed them to. We're not talking about, I know grants and things like that. It's a game of chance, but I just don't feel like they weren't effective. You want to make sure you know, not just that they've had clients, but they've been successful in the work that they've done for their clients. You want to ask about their memberships and alignment with any fundraising associations. You want to ask, are they a member of the Association for Fundraising Professionals? Have they been a member for a while? Have they been active in a local chapter? You want to be able to ask them what kind of time commitment, are they doing this full time? Are they doing this on the side? You want to ask them about their availability during the day. If you don't work in the evening and that's their only availability, that might not be a good fit. If their only availability for meetings is on the weekends, you and your team do not do work, this might not be a good fit. So you need to ask the questions that are very relevant to you. If you are working with children and education, you want to ask, have they served educational institutions and nonprofits in terms of fundraising, because you want to make sure that they're familiar with the language. I'll give you an example why. There was an organization that I was familiar with, and I talked to them. They were sharing some of their not so good experiences with a fundraiser. And one of the things that they focused on was human trafficking of teenagers. And the grant writer, who was served as the fundraising consultant, so they were part of a team, when they wrote the grant drafts, they referred to the victims, the young ladies who were trafficked, as prostitutes. That language should never be used in the situation we're talking about, right? And so what it aligned with is, you may be a great fundraiser, but you may not be the great fundraiser or team member from that group, from that consulting group, to serve our organization, because you're not sensitive to the language that you're using. So a fundraiser is not just a fundraiser. You want to fundraise, especially if it's a fundraiser that's writing grants or writing copy for collateral material. You want to make sure it's a fundraiser that has some sort of sensitivity in the work that you're doing, and that you are providing information and correcting them and helping them to understand the brand of the organization, the language that should be used, the things that are considered offensive. You all need to have this relationship. So if you're hiring an outside fundraising consultant, I would recommend looking for one that you're not hiring just for a one-off. You may have to do that in the beginning so you can find your Russell. You may hire somebody. It was okay, an okay experience, but it just didn't feel all the way right. Well, maybe you want to try someone else the next time. And maybe you do that again a third time. And the third time you realize like, this is the organization. Well, then my recommendation, to the extent that you can afford it, is to continue to use that particular consultant, because that allows you and that person to develop or that team, because it could be more than one person in that consulting group. It allows you all to develop a relationship. It allows that organization to get to know your organization a lot differently, because that allows them to curate your messaging in a way that's beneficial to your organization, represents your organization in the right way, but at the same time allows them to use their skill set and their knowledge of the fundraising community to position it in a way that allows your applications, that allows your initiatives, whatever the case may be, to be elevated to the next level. That is what they should be doing for you.